I see the little tears in your eyes about to fall. You are wondering, why isn't mom recording? You're mom for real. Oh, okay. But if you try, I tell you, you know why. Oh man. This is how I feel. So if you didn't get it yet, this episode's gonna be about music.
So on a side note, this next episode, brief short episode, is gonna be on music, yo.
If you haven't seen our intro, tune into one of our other episodes and you'll see the whole intro that we give on every episode, and then we're just gonna streamline that to now. You can go back, watch it, press pause, come back to this episode, and then boom, intro.
You said something very important. Stream. What was that?
What?
Was that commercial that we were doing?
Oh, Anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm. For all your streaming shit, right?
Right. Start the
Yeah.
podcast.
Make
Start
sure that
the
you
podcast.
fucking, you get your Anchor on.
And when we put it on Spotify and that comes out, that's not like the recorded one, do we still get another payment for that?
It comes out every time somebody listens to it.
So Anchor FM.
Anchor FM. Yeah, all right. So music.
I think let's go for the music that molded you throughout your life.
Oh, yeah, I like that. That's good.
And let's try to be like
Prompt.
kind of
Prompt when they
like don't
concise.
take forever.
All right.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Alright,
Go
so
ahead.
for me,
I
like,
think it's easier for the youngsters than for
What? Well, it maybe didn't.
All right, we're trying to get started, y'all. Come on.
so growing up for me, like as a youngster, the music that I remember the most that stuck in mind was kind of like the mainstream hip hop of the early '90s and oldies, like really young, before getting into like elementary school. It was like the '90s mainstream hip hop, Tupac, Biggie, whatever was like blasting on the radio at that time. The East Coast West Coast beef was like hella hot. So
Really wasn't an East Coast West Coast beef. Just
it was
for
an East Coast
Yeah,
beef.
it was between two East Coast foods.
It was
Had a
a-
beef.
But homie,
Tupac
move.
is absolutely not from LA. He's not. He doesn't get played on West Coast Wednesdays. But the way everybody knew it at the time was the East Coast West Coast beef.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there was West Coast heads that were involved in the beef. Although Snoop Dogg had hella love for the East Coast, and the East Coast didn't have no love for Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
that
We
was
can cite the Source Awards.
But that was actually the main beef that the West Side Connection had. That's what was
That was a trigger.
Well, the East Coast didn't have no love for Snoop Dogg.
the East Coast. They didn't have they wouldn't play West Coast music with West Coast artists. So.
Yeah, but the West Coast played.
They did a couple collabs. I forgot who it was that did a collab with Corrupt. Was it?
Well, Corrupt's from the East Coast too. So Philly. So it's not that, but.
Yeah.
Uh,
Alright, so who else?
So early on is like oldies, like legit Chicano gangbanging oldies, and then like 18 with a bullet, but also like soulful oldies too, like the OJ's and.
And you think the fools from Sereno play that song?
What, 18 with a bullet? When we used to play shoot 'em up, bang bang, Sereno gang. Maybe. so then getting into like my youthful phase, like going from like a really young childhood to getting into like school, I was still gravitating more toward like mainstream hip hop, rap, R&B, a lot of R&B, a lot of Peaches and Cream, getting freaky and
Oh god.
yeah. So like, my family was like hella, on my mom's side is like hella Afrocentric, right? And so like that art, and then there's no males in the family, like there's just the grandpa, but like none of our fathers, like me and my cousins, none of our fathers were around. So like the household was like
Tradition.
It was like, it was like hella, like all my aunts.
Women led.
It was like my aunts and my cousins. And so like the music that we listened to was reflective of like what my aunts would be listening to. So hella of like R&B, like good R&B too. Shit that I mean, So For Real. You know what I mean? Candy Ring. All of that is like being played pretty young, and then I get to a rebellious point in my life. Like around middle school, I started rejecting Christianity. I started rejecting Christianity like hella hard. I'm like learning about the like atrocities that Christianity has sponsored throughout the history and the world and the planet. So I started rejecting it super hard, and I get heavy into like death metal and black metal. And all my mom's ex-boyfriend, this Navajo guy from the Res, and like he was fucking hitting black metal and death metal and grind. He was hitting all that super hard. And when I got into it and I saw that like he liked it, and then I was listening to like the elementary school version of like rock and classical rock and things like that. And then he's like, "Yeah, you heard of this?
Yeah.
You want some of this? You know what I mean? You want to hit this shit super hard? You know what I mean?" And I'm just like, oh. You know what I mean? I like skipped punk rock and like went straight to fucking black metal and death metal, and then I just did a whole 180 and fucking went super deep into that. I started going into the shows and wearing the whole black metal get up, and that's one of the times that I met Red Hot, and Red Hot was still like in the elementary school version of rock and roll, and then we kind of jumped into that scene together.
Yeah.
And then from there, I noticed that at shows, the fools that were least willing to fight, to like be down for their shit, were like metalheads. Like the fools that were listening to the music I was listening to, those were like the biggest
The
pussies
lanes.
in the whole fucking show. Like those fools were not like, and then if they did fight, they got whooped. Yeah, like these, I was like, that's a turnoff for me. Like, I just was not.
You're on team fucking get your ass beat.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be on a team to get my ass beat. The metalheads fucking could not hold it down. So then I transitioned into hardcore, but in my transition into hardcore, I went to like this screamo thing for a second.
Yeah, I do recall that.
I went to like this. I went to this little emo screamo thing because the girls that I had crushes on were like really into that. So I gravitated toward that.
Those girls are hot too.
Yeah, I think
Those
more.
girls are
So
fucking
it's
hot.
like, so I started gravitating toward that, and I did that whole little thing. But then you can only do that for so long. Like if the girls don't bite, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, then I'm not gonna be putting on these pants. You know, that
Pablo Francisco would say, anything for pussy, man.
It's high school.
Yeah.
So I was in that for like a really brief moment of time. I'm listening to like, fucking, I don't even remember the bands. I can't even remember the bands.
Asking like,
Norma Jean. I
oh,
can
there you
remember
go.
Norma Jean.
That's one.
Was like one of the hardest bands that was in that scene. And then I start going into like the East Coast and like some of the LA versions of like hardcore, which came from like the punk scene. So in the hardcore scene, there was like a gangbanging aspect to it, where fools would get into crews and they would fight. These are the fools that were winning all the fights at the gigs, and so it was like, all right, I want to be the winner. I want to be on the winning team. So I started getting heavy into like hardcore, Death Before Dishonor, Donnybrook, fools that are related to like DMS and FSU, and everybody has their little crews, and so the crews get in fights at the shows, and I start going to these shows and gravitating toward this, and like really getting attracted to the violence that these shows bring. I was like hella addicted to like the high of going to these shows and engaging in the violence that came with these shows. And then shortly after that, I grow up. Near the end of high school, I graduate in like college. I start getting into like revolutionary type hip hop. I start listening to fucking We Need Revolutionary Bankers. I started listening to Immortal Technique, and then from Immortal Technique, I start broadening my horizons, and I'm listening to like people that are like related to Technique. I'm like starting to branch off. I started going back toward the hip hop that I grew up on. I started listening to KRS-One. I'm listening to like East Coast, Philadelphia, you know, fucking Jedi Mind Tricks. I'm getting into like that scene of hip hop around that time. I'm starting to listen to more of that. Yeah, I mean, Wu-Tang is forever. I think I was listening to Wu-Tang throughout all of that, low-key. That's pretty much it. The rest is history. Ever since then, I stopped like. There comes a point in life where you stop making who you are based on what you listen to. You know what I mean? So like, you can listen to whatever the fuck you want, but you don't have to actually reflect that in like your visual person. I think up until I started listening to that kind of music, is when I stopped looking the part of the music I listen to, and I just started branching off and listening to like all kinds of shit. Nowadays I listen to a lot of hip hop, but I also listen to, like, believe it or not, movie scores. I listen to a lot of Louis Bacalov, which is featured in a bunch of Quentin Tarantino movies. I listen to weird abstract shit that I kind of dig. That's pretty much it. That's like what molded me. Questions? Who's next?
Me? Oh man, damn. So when I think about that, I guess I think of the first tape I ever bought. No. The first tape I ever got was Midnight Star. So that kind of like started my like, oh shit, fucking, if you wanna ride, you can ride the wide horse.
Oh, dude. Oh, I know exactly what
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
That's the first one I ever got.
It's the hardcore ass fucking. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know how old I was. And shit.
I like
that was a tape, right?
Yeah, my first tape was Beastie Boys.
Oh,
nice.
So yeah, I think mine was like 80s when I got that tape, and then the first vinyl I ever bought, shit, was Two Live Crew. Damn. To the point where my mom was a real conservative Catholic, so she went and she fucking got a marker or something, and she fucking it was like they were at the beach, and then these girls are like just showing their bikini and their ass and shit. So she went and just kind of colored in the like the pants and shit. She put shorts on them and shit.
Damn.
So then that was my transition into like rap, hip hop. And so then the first tape I remember buying was NWA. NWA, yeah. So it was all like street shit, right? And so mind you, I was growing up in the projects. And so then I think for some reason I was like that I was like music, and then I kind of went away from music for some time when I was in high school, and I went into like sports, and I kind of consumed all my like whatever. And then once I graduated from high school, as that high school, because I went to a different high school than all my homies from the projects. So when I was over, I met them all up at ELAC, and so at ELAC I had all sorts of different. I had fucking the Quebradita fools, so fucking Charlino Sanchez and shit, and all the fucking, those fools, and then I had the alternative fucking K-Rock fools, and they were like, fucking with the new fucking like grunge shit, fucking Rage, fucking Nirvana, fucking Soundgarden, fucking shit. You name all those fools, fucking Counting Crows, and Rage was in there. So, and then, So then, you know, I was like, and then there was like a lot of foods that were playing bands and shit. So I was like, just, you know, I was just kind of like trying to figure shit out. And then the homie, one of my a close homie, a fucking real loved homie from the projects, he got blasted in the, you know, in front of my pad. So I think that what transformed that pivotal event, transformed my outlook, you know, because up to then, like graduating from high school up to that point, which was in 96 or 94, and so it was like 2 years of like just kind of like all this music. That's when you can fucking get all those fucking CDs for a penny and shit.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Fuck, man, we just fucking get tons of shit, you know, and that just kind of like broadened my fucking horizon in terms of like music, just like, oh fuck, from fucking classic rock to fucking like reggae to like fucking all these fucking alternative like K-rock fucking, you know, it just fucking broadened. And then so then comes that my homie's Adam's death, and I just started like asking questions about shit, right? Like, so that's when it just kind of like turned into a more like conscious revolutionary themed music. And so by that time I had met brothers from Aslan Underground, and I had met brothers from Quinto Sol, and there was this whole Chicano movement based around like the Zapatista had just came out in 1994, the quincentennial celebrations of fucking Columbus Voyage that were fucking be celebrated in 92. So a lot of that indigenous perspectives kind of like came into the community, and it was what kind of like framed my music at that time.
Now, what were you at the time?
That's what it kind of geared me into like more of like what I was kind of like, this is what I want to like listen to it, and then so then I just started picking up a lot of reggae, you know, fucking not just Bob Marley, but some of that fucking Steel Pulse, you know, fucking just you know, fucking Peter Tosh, you know, it just, you know, that stuff that not
A little bit of bad brain.
yeah, you know, and shit. And so then you know, but then it was more like a lot of the community bands, community like fucking, so that kind of like was my music. And then I think then came so during that time, it's like I also like discovered again, not that I want to say discovered, but I was like, oh shit, East Coast hip hop, because everything was West Coast, you know.
You Columbus it?
You know, I fucking Columbus it.
If you think you're alone,
so that's when fucking KRS came. Like, I was like, fuck, this fool's fucking on some shit, right? And then fucking, you know, fucking Public Enemy, and Gangstar, and you know, Paris, you know, so that's West Coast. So that kind of like, you know, just gathering all that music together like a music library. But then like late 90s, you know, we put together Calpuli, and then finally Quinto Sol came up, you know, they put together their album. But then like I think at the early 90s was like Dead Press. And Dead Press, it was just like fucking, like, you know, fucking hip hop.
That's what it's down.
And so I think that one would kind of like push a lot of, kind of like made the separation between fucking mainstream fools and they want to be on the radio, and fools that were just like
substantial music versus just like beer garbage.
Right, and then they just kept banging out fucking album after album and shit. And I think, you know, early 2000s, and you know, like then I came to that point where you're like, you just said, like, you just started listening to different types of music, you know, and you're just like, you're just expanding to fucking like whatever fucking movie scores and
Yeah, I think once that
fucking shit.
once that happens, and you're just like, you know what, I can fucking listen to whatever I want. Because there's a culture within music scenes of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you start listening to other shit, and then other homies are like, what the fuck you listening to? You know,
Yeah.
listen to that shit, you know what I mean? And then you start getting like cult vibe ousted if you start listening to whatever's not in your scene.
Right.
And then once you break that, you're like, man, fuck this shit.
Fuck all you
motherfuckers.
motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think something that always kind of also played a part in the music that I was gonna like was when as my daughter was getting older, what I wanted her to kind of like listen to on my end.
Yeah.
And,
Well, what you wanted to expose her to?
Yeah, you know, and it you know, it's just like
A lot of exposure.
Some AGOP.
man, that was
Whole lot of
that was the last thing I wanted for in my car.
Talking about they come from the boundaries of the Euphrates.
Damn.
Alright.
Some foods from Alhambra and shit.
Alright. Next on the list is a fool from Alhambra.
Fuck you.
Nothing happens in Alhambra.
Well, for me, musically, the first person I really that I can remember as a kid really getting into was Weird Al Yankovic. I fucking loved Weird Al.
I remember that.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious.
God damn,
Yeah,
I hate
all
that
that
fool.
Eat It.
I hate that fool, man. As my hair started growing longer,
Amish
like
Paradise.
Yeah.
Remember, like, that was like great shit. Like, really good stuff there. So that was the first person that I remember as a kid really getting into, and then somewhere around like kind of middle school, like somewhere around there, like 7th grade or something like that. We started doing our own little parodies. And just like taking whatever was on the radio at the time, and just writing our own version of it. It was me and my homie Raymond Williams, and we would always just try to outdo each other in terms of like writing funny shit. And that was the birth of dabbling into hip hop as like something that I can do and I can create my own version of it. So that's right before high school, and right around then, you know, like you had probably the greatest era of hip hop. In my opinion, is like that mid to late '90s. There's just something that happened in that time. It was just something in the water around that time that was producing a lot of really good hip hop, and that was like the time that, you know, I was alive in that time frame. I was that age in that time frame. So just being exposed a lot to that. So then it pushes me up into '99. I find Rage Against the Machine, and that was the fucking what the fuck, you know, kind of moment. It matched my feeling of the world. You know, at the time I was already like very politicized at the time, so I understood what he was talking about. And so that was just like, what the fuck, people talk about these kind of subjects. And then the aggression, you know what I mean, that level of aggression, like the intensity of the music, was something that like you could feel, you know. And so I got really into Rage. I was that kid in high school that had like every single Rage shirt, you know, that had like a different Rage shirt every day, you know. That was me right there.
you wouldn't wash it.
Sometimes wouldn't wash it. But so I got into Rage, and then right around high school, like right around freshman year of high school, was like the great awakening in terms of like LA underground hip hop. So when I was a kid, and you said you listened to underground hip hop, it was like what we were talking about was like the Freestyle Fellowship, of Mexican descent.
Project Globe.
Yeah, Project Globe MCs, Jurassic 5, CVE, you know, fucking
Abstract.
yeah, like that circle of bus driver, all those guys, right? So that was what we considered underground hip hop. You know, a lot of other people were somewhat more mainstream, or like you were more well established, or you were more well known. It was like all these kind of local cats that like nobody really fucking knew, but were super dope. And I dove into that like really, really, really hard, you know. And then I ended up going away for a while, and so my access to music was super limited. And then getting out, you're looking at like 2003. I got into, well, I met Post, and Post was like an encyclopedia of hip hop, and he introduced me to like Midwest rappers, people that I would have never listened to before, like Slug, Sage Francis, fucking Los Nativos, like people from that whole rhyme sayers kind of clique, like that clique of hip hop. I got exposed to that, you know, Buck 65.
I was just listening to that.
Yeah, it's good shit, really good shit. And so that became, you know, my. But I think, kind of going back to my childhood, I think the most influential musical moment that I've ever had was my best friend growing up is Christopher Maldonado. His older brother, Mark Maldonado, was always working on music, and he had this band called United. And the music that I would end up writing later on was always with like him in mind. Like I always wrote music trying to impress Mark. Mark was like the fucking the end all be all. Yeah. He like wrote all the riffs in his music. He wrote all his own music, and he was a really dope MC. So like he was playing live music and MCing at the same time. It's kind of rage-ish, but maybe not so hardcore. But it was really, really dope. So I always looked up to Mark as like, you know, if he said it was dope, then that shit is dope. You know what I mean? And he was the standard. So as a kid, probably most influence off of Rage and United. I would say Mark Maldonado and Zach De La Rocha were probably my two biggest influences growing up in terms of like the music that I listen to today, like the kind of aggression that I seek in hip hop, and the kind of skillfulness as well as you know the intensity of it. Yeah.
On that note, if you listen to Rage, but you've never heard KRS, The Last Emperor, and Zach De La Rocha,
You're fucking up.
you're tripping. You gotta hit that song, so you know what Zach is bringing.
All right. So I was lucky enough to grow up with very musically influenced parents, and my mom and my mom's side of the family were all rocker kids. You know, they grew up listening to Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and then eventually the women graduated towards like Poison, Motley Crue, those sorts of bands. Hair metal, glam metal, and then the men stuck to, you know, your AC/DCs, your like I said, your Leds, your Pink Floyds, Metallicas, and all that stuff. So from my mom's side, I got exposed to all that rocker stuff. My dad also was into that kind of music, but he ran a nightclub, so I got exposed to a lot of dance music of his time. So a lot of that
Techno.
a lot of techno. Stevie B or stuff like that. Some even house music. A lot of that. And then he was also very much into like up and coming hip hop, like what was it you just said? No, True, like that. Like he was
True Life.
Yeah, Two Live Crew. So like he would listen to that kind of stuff. He had a lot of albums of that, and so I got a lot of mixture of like exposure very young.
He also listened to the house version of hardcore.
That's what I meant by like house music, like that, like hardcore house music, old like it's like basically what EDM graduated from. So it was pretty intense as far as that. Yeah, it's like
groover music?
like house rave shit.
Damn.
So like I got exposed to all that stuff as a kid. But what really influenced me was when I would go to school every morning. My dad would listen to K-Rock, and I would love listening to anything that was on K-Rock. If it was on K-Rock, I fucking loved it. I mean, and it graduated me from like small soft bands like Third Eye Blind all the way up, going up until like as I got older, they started putting more extreme music, where I was already listening to Korn, Disturbed, fucking System of a Down, like the more heavier bands. But and then it also was simultaneously listening to post punk or skate punk, which was like Sub 41. But my favorite band was The Offspring, and I bought fucking shitload of their albums.
Oh my god,
I love
that's the
fucking
most quintessential white boy
yeah,
band
it is.
that has ever lived.
It is. But I used to skateboard. I used to do a lot of that kind of shit. So to me, that was like
the reflection of
what I was into. Yeah, but I grew up in the hood, so while all that was going on, I also would be at the park at Guardia Park.
Parque.
And
Shout outs to the parque.
So there, everybody, especially all the hood fools, would be bumping fucking West Coast rap, gangster rap. So I would love listening to that too when I was at the park. Like, yeah, this is the shit. And my dad would take it home. So, you know, I was hearing all that stuff, plus some of the stuff from the East Coast, some of the stuff from like, you know, Ohio, like your fucking Bone Thugs and, you know, things like that. Just very gangster rap. Yeah, so I got like all of that, but I was aiming more towards the rock side. I remember a big thing that affected me as far as getting deeper into hip hop was I remember going to a football camp and I was listening to Motley Crue on a CD, and this fucking kid from Azusa randomly grabs my shit and starts listening to it. He's like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" And he puts it on his earphones, and I'm listening to Motley Crue. He's like, "Oh, this is some fucking white boy shit." And I was just like, I got like really like, oh, like fuck you, dude. Like I was upset by that, and everybody, his little group of friends were just obnoxious the whole time, and all they would bump is hip hop, and they were watching BET on TV, and they wouldn't let nobody fucking use the TV, and it was a bad experience, and made me be like, well, fuck all you. Like I didn't want to participate in that culture, even though I had plenty of access to it and I was exposed to it. So I kind of stuck to the rock side. Around that time, that's when I met two Ravens over here, and I was already starting to listen like a little bit of Slayer because it was on. I remember it was on Grand Theft Auto, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And it was, it had Anthrax, Slayer, it had a bunch of thrash bands.
No, but I had.
Oh yeah. So and then that was the other thing. Then I went to your house, and you had already been like a year in, or I don't know how long you had been in, but he had already posters of like Cradle. I remember looking at it like, and this is girl with tits, just showing fucking tits out. I was like, all right, and you know, I'm like a little kid and shit. Like this is dope. And then like Max, you know, he had access to all this fucking death metal, black metal, and shit. And then coincidentally, on my own terms, like I had friends that were also like getting into that. So it was like just wow, this music is fucking extreme, and I just love its energy. I love the aggression. It also reflected like internally how I was feeling, and
there's something about the shock value listening to that music that is addicting. When people go, oh my god.
Yeah.
People are disgusted by it.
You're like yeah. And I like me personally, I'm just naturally contrary. I like to be opposite of people. I don't like to do what everybody else is doing. You know, I rarely go with the trend, and if I'm with the trend, it's I don't know like why. Normally I don't do that. So that was definitely against everything. Then at that same time, I was already starting to learn about my indigenous identity, and learning exactly what you're saying about the whole like Christian thing and what they did to our people, and that got me heavily into black metal, because black metal was like very anti-Christian, and also very they're white people going to their roots, their pagan traditions, their before Christianity ever hit their people. So that was like, man, like they're doing what I'm trying to do, but in their land, and they're burning churches down and fucking cool shit like that. So I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And so I got really into black metal.
Shout out to Red Feather.
Shout out to Red Feather. So yeah, He's white feather. White feather, Nordic white feather. But yeah, so like that made me want to get into that, and then around that time, you know, I picked up instruments and I was starting to play guitar. You know, my uncle, he gave me my first guitar, and so I started learning that kind of music, and I eventually like was in a black metal band where I vocalized and played guitar. My buddy played guitar, also the native guy. So we made like a little demo that was native themed. So it was like a native themed black metal band. Yeah, Wolfenkrieg, as it's called, which means wolf war, but in German it has to do with the black metal shit. Yeah, it's a black metal thing to be German or European. It's stupid now that I look at it. But it was native themed, and what's cool about all that stuff is very earth centric. So they're promoting like giving back to the earth and letting shit come back to how it was, and even to a point where it's what's it called, misanthropy, where you're willing to like give yourself, like literally sacrifice yourself so the world could be a better place. So to me that was like that's an interesting philosophy, and I was like, whoa, kill some humans, like yeah, some need to go, you know.
Cold, I heard.
Yeah, and then eventually, you know, fast forward, I kind of grew out of that phase because of kind of what you were saying, like the fucking people. I love the music, but the people were just they're lame. They're not all of them are fucking cool. A lot of them are losers. A lot of them are drunks, and I just wasn't into that whole vibe anymore. And around that time, I was in college, and then I got into like reggae. My friends introduced me to reggae, and then there's like kids from South Central who listen a lot of ska, so I was like listening to that. And then also I was going to the punk scene because of the gigs that I was going to, so like I was listening to that. And it was just like a giant accumulation of different musics when I was in college from other people. And then around that time you were getting into revolutionary hip hop, so I was kind of like getting back into like listening to hip hop again. And I was liking that because I like, you know, same thing, my perspectives was changing, and it was kind of going with that perspective. And it wasn't until like probably I got a little bit older than at that point I was kind of listening to everything. I wasn't stuck to much. But then I had a friend come over, and he told me about Ghost Main. And he's like, you ever heard Ghost Main? I was like, nah, like what the fuck is Ghost Main? And he puts it on. It's some fucking white dude who's doing trap hip hop, but he sounds like Bone Thugs. But yeah, he sounds like Bone Thugs. He raps like kind of like Bone Thugs, but he looks like a black metal dude. And his fucking even his logo is all like black metal, and he does the corpse paint and everything. Like he looks like a black metal guy doing fucking trap hip hop, and I'm just like, I like this. Like, I'm vibing this. And then simultaneously, my brother happened to have a MIDI keyboard, and he didn't use it. He spent all his money on it and didn't use it. So he's like, "You want it?" I was gonna try and make beats with it. Like, you can try it. I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'll try it." But I was gonna use it for making rock music. And then that was around the time I listened to fucking Ghostman. I'm like, I think I can make music like that. And lo and behold, I did. I was able to. And then Two Savages was born, and so I tried my fucking attempt at hip hop, and as much effort as I gave to that. And yeah, then that kind of like branched me out to now where I'm just like listening to everything. Like it's kind of like weird. Like I got into anything production wise. Like if it was like lo-fi, I was into it because like all these people are making this shit in their fucking house just like I was. So it's like lo-fi was the shit. My brother introduced me to that because he was studying a lot in college, and that was like a new college thing. And then I was also hearing like these artists that are doing hip hop over lo-fi beats, and their shit that they're talking about has nothing to do with the most common like hip hop stuff that they talk about. Like, it's not talking about drugs, not talking about just like the most common shit that you hear. It's not revolutionary either. It's more just about like the angst of a young human, like
punk music but in lo-fi.
Yeah, basically like talking about like going to parties and not feeling awkward and like we were just listening to a song like that on the way over here. He's like talking about people doing coke, and he's like, I'm just gonna smoke weed. In the song, but he's rapping about it, like. And yeah, so then like even weirder stuff like bedroom pop, I got into that because they're also producing their own shit, and it's just, to me, it's like all that stuff is cool because I actually want to make that music, and anything that people are making on their own in their own fucking house is like, oh, I'm into that right now. So a lot of that, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Same thing. Didn't stop caring about how I look because I used to look very metal, and
If you ever watched Death Clock, he used to look 100% like the singer of Death Clock.
AKA, Google Nathan Explosion. And
like, I swear to God, they stole his likeness and put it on the cartoon. That's our show.
Sorry if that was dragging. I apologize.
Yeah, Lucas over there falling asleep and shit.
I had Lucas falling asleep.
Lucas said Lucas falling asleep.
All right, what about you? Chewy, let's make it quick.
Well, for me personally, I feel that I've always been into all kinds of music as long as I think that it's like really good. Because I am first generation Mexican American.
Mexican American.
Are like into gang fights and are Chito and China and white girls named Debbie too. Yeah, so my dad, he comes from Puebla, so over there they listen to a lot of cumbias.
Cumbia.
So like family parties when I was a kid, it would always be cumbias or norteñas because my mom's side of the family, they listen to like a lot of norteña, banda, corrido, shit like that. My uncles, when they would be outside drinking, they'd be listening to like Ramon Ayala, Cornelio Reina, Carlos y Jose. So if you look into my Spotify account, I have a lot of those same music.
Romántico?
I don't know, I really like that music, and especially like Carlos y Jose because it reminds me of like my grandpa a lot. But yeah, that was when I was a kid. When I started going to school, I started getting the taste of like West Coast rap and a little bit of East Coast rap, hip hop, not too much. I remember like some of the first artists I heard were like at the time was like, of course, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eazy-E, 50 Cent. There was Eminem. That one song by Ahmed was played a lot. Back in the days when I was young, not a kid anymore.
Yeah,
I remember
Farside
loving that song,
Ahmed.
yo. Psycho Realm.
Shoot up, Captain.
Who else? That was mostly it for like, at that time, And then when I hit middle school, I got more exposed into that, where like I started, more artists, fucking shit like that. And one of my homies, he was a tagger, he used to dress like a tag banger, and he was a tagger, and he used to like fucking like rock, right? And that shit would trip me out because, in my family, like my dad's side of the family, there's a lot of like metalheads, rockers, shit like that. So I got exposed to like Brujeria, fucking Korn. There was this, my prima, she used to like this band called Kitty.
Oh yeah, it's all female metal band.
So
yeah.
that's all they would listen to, fucking that kind of music, like Spanish rock too, Del Tri, fucking Samsam,
Mago de Oz,
all that, Mago de Oz, like all that shit. So I relate, and like me and that fool, we were always together, so we'd be fucking doing shit, and we'd just clown around, fucking. I remember like, what was it, like 7th grade, Guitar Hero came out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like that fool was super into it, and
I was pretty into
I started doing that shit, and like, I was like, oh shit, they have some pretty nice jams in there,
Yeah.
And I've always been open, so there was one that came out, Aerosmith, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, and that was like the first time I ever heard of Aerosmith, so I was like going through their songs, and I was like, damn, they sing. They got some pretty good jams, man. Fucking,
I don't like them on principle.
my godfather's son used to be into Led Zeppelin, so I would hear him bump Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
I never really liked Led Zeppelin until like recently that I started like going back and listening to their shit. I could appreciate it more now.
It's pretty good. Musically, it's amazing.
And then high school, well, actually, like 7th grade, there was a whole Chicano rap fucking scene out there. Brown Side. There was High Power Soldiers. There was Tattoo Inc. Like all these fools.
I remember all that shit.
And the fools that stuck out the most to me was Tattoo Inc. And one of those fools primarily was some fool called Conejo. He's from Westside Harpies. And I used to have all that fool's music. Like honestly, like that's one of like the biggest influences on me. At, going into high school was like, like listening to all that shit just turned me up even more. Like it got you in the mood to do some shit. But yeah, like shortly after that, I think I met Lucas, and then he started introducing me to like Dead Press and shit like that, you know, and that turned into a major influence, you know, like on where I'm at now. Actually, was like Dead Press, hearing a lot of like the stuff they had to say. So I remember I used to bump that shit like religiously, you know, like every day I had to listen to some Dead Press. And then, you know, that opened the gates to more hip hop. You know, I started meeting more people and like just like, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard that? You know, all at the same while. Like throughout that time, I was still listening to like oldies too, of course, because you know you got the bigger homies bumping oldies and shit like that. And the hip hop, I would recognize certain samples and like, oh shit, you know, that's from that song right there. You know, like so like you know that kind of led me into exploring like other music, you know, and all kinds of shit to the point where like now I listen to all kinds of shit, man. Like I'm from Beethoven to fucking Japanese 80s pop music, you know, like all kinds of shit. Like I just want to listen to shit, and when I listen to music, I listen to it, I'm like, that's a nice hip hop sample right there, you know, like I don't know, that's the reason why I kind of look up all these other music. It's like, how could I put this in a hip hop beat, you know, like incorporate it into that shit, you know, like the other day we were driving down the street, you know, we went to Long Beach, me and Lucas, and I was telling him, like, showing him some music, and you know, like he's all like, oh, this is where this is from, you know. I was like, yeah, this is fucking, you know, like some Warren G track, you know, that's some other food fucking. And so like, yeah, you know, I love music. Music is like fucking dope, you know. I can vibe on so many levels to it, from aggression to being peaceful to fucking just being thoughtful, you know, like I don't know, like music is very inspirational to me, you know, like I really like it. So I could listen to anything. If I don't think it's good, I won't listen to it, you know, like, but I give it a shot, like, oh, let me listen to some of this, you know, like, if it's cool, like, I'll listen to it, you know, like, I'll be bumping fucking, like, Caliuchis. Hey, some of her music's dope, you know, fucking MIA has, like, some crazy-ass music, you know, like, so, yeah, you know,
Jenny
like
69.
69.
As much as people hate that song, you sure sing it alive, bring it up alive, you know, so.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. Super catchy.
Whatever.
Got a mean hook, man.
Everybody has opinions.
It's not a good song, but it's in there.
It's
Stuck in
But
there.
it's one of those.
Yeah, that's mostly it, you know, like I've always been open to all kinds of music, but biggest influence for sure on me has been corridos, cumbias, and hip hop. And cumbias, cause growing up, I remember I used to see my cousin dance, and that was an ugly ass motherfucker, yo. Like, believe me, short, prieto, like ugly ass motherfucker.
Damn.
What's his full name?
Don't worry about it. He's not here. They deported him a long time ago.
That's
Damn.
how you
No.
live?
I was waiting for you.
Fuck it, we can get down. But I used to see him dance at the parties, and yo, he'd be dancing like the most prettiest jainas at the party, you know, just cause he had the moves. And I remember one time I was at a party and I brought a friend over. She wasn't my girl or anything, but my uncle came up to me and he told me like, hey, you're not gonna dance with your girl? I was like, nah, I don't dance. And he gave me some pieces. He said, I'm gonna give you some advice in Spanish. He told me, he goes, if you don't dance your girl, somebody else will dance her for you. And after that, I was like, fuck, okay, you know, like I gotta learn how to dance. So I started with norteñas, moved to
Oh, man,
cumbias,
I like to see you try.
you know, and you know, that's why like I started learning like how to dance and shit like that. So like, yeah.
You could dance if you want to.
You can
leave your friends behind.
Because if your friends don't dance,
if they don't dance, it ain't no friend of mine.
Yeah.
All right.
On that note,
So to close it up,
On a side note, really quick, you're about 4 or 5. The first cassette you asked for, which taught you how to rewind on the cassette player, was a Red Hot Chili Pepper.
was it?
And
Oh.
you would
Cut my
never
life
stop
into
playing
pieces.
it.
Oh, you
That's not wrong.
No,
Who's
that's
that?
Papa Roach.
Oh yeah.
Under the bridge.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Under
you
the
wanted
bridge.
all
Oh, I remember the first song that I was addicted to, and my mom would tell me, fucking Pasta Ducci. I was like a little ass kid, and I fucking wouldn't stop listening to that song.
Do you know that the name of that song of Pennywise? The one that started
Bro
like,
him?
oh,
Bro him.
whoa.
We were on that
He
one.
performed that
We were,
song.
Dude, my
we did
cousins had a
perform
band and they would play it and all
that.
the
Yeah, we
time.
were performing.
Okay, when I was a kid, here's a fun fact about me, right? When I was a kid, elementary, there was a party in my house, and I have cousins next door, right? So I go over to their house, and I didn't have long hair, but I didn't have short hair either, and like they pulled me to the side, like, oh, we're gonna spike up your hair, right? And I was like, yeah, cool, Dragon Ball Z, I'm gonna spike Goku, right? So like they start spiking up my hair and whatnot, and like I go outside and I'm like running around playing. My dad pulls me to the side and he goes, what the fuck did you do to your hair? Go outside, comb that shit right, And after that I was like, what the fuck, like he didn't want me to be like my cousins at all. He fucked up because that just turned me like the other way, I just, started one all the way, like
Silver tooth activities.
Yeah, silver tooth activities after that, So it was funny, and then like now that when I started growing my hair long, like up until recently I started having a good relationship with my dad, but like not a couple years back, he pulls me to the side and he goes, I don't understand you. He goes, you want to do with spiky hair, then you go bald, now you have long hair. What is it with you? What is it? I don't understand you. And I was just like, that's it. You just don't understand me because, in my head, I'm like, you don't talk to me. You don't take the time to understand me, So, yeah, fun fact. I could have been a metalhead rocker, but...
He fucked it up. That kid turned me like I could have been a hip-hop. Fucking deep in the hip.
Remember the first song that I was addicted to that I had no control over was Heart of Glass by Blondie.
Oh, yeah.
My cousins were drinking, rubbing alcohol. My cousin, I had 3 cousins. The 2 older ones were in the bathroom at my great grandma's house, drinking, rubbing alcohol, listening to Heart of Glass, and flicking the light on and off. Like it was a party. Like, come in here, and I remember looking for my mom, and like Heart of Glass is playing. I go into the restroom, my fucking cousins are like.
It's a good song.
And I'm like, what the fuck? And that song was stuck in my head, and I remember being addicted to it, and I couldn't find it. Like, they took the CD with them, but I wanted to listen to it so bad because it was stuck in my head. But the first one, I think the first CD I ever had that I wanted was my cousin Victor's Beastie Boys CD. And I remember after that, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Beastie Boys, I was addicted to fucking girls. I was stuck on that shit.
It's a good one.
All right, to close it up, name a genre of music that you only listen to by yourself. Like shit that you will not listen to around other people. There's got to be something like a guilty pleasure that you only listen to just for you. Nobody? I know you haven't.
Well, I mean, I have one. I don't know, but I have listened. Well, yeah, I kind of have. Straight up bedroom pop. It's super fucking not. You wouldn't expect me to listen to it. I don't think people who know me don't. Matter of fact, I had it on one time, and you're like, "Who's this fucking white hanging on in the fucking house?" I was like, "Oh, that's who's hating on my music."
Who said that?
You did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, who the fuck is this white kid on the fucking? Because I had it on the TV because I wasn't by myself at that point, and you walked in and said that. Yeah.
All right. I listen to Maori choir music.
That sounds cool.
It's really good.
It sounds really cool.
Listen to like Maori.
Is it Christian?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
It's like the Maori youth singing, like, I guess would be their gospel songs, but in Maori language, and that shit is angelic. It's like really good.
I don't have nothing now, but maybe when I was in middle school, there was an embarrassing moment where I had LimeWire days. I never had to pay for music because LimeWire. Thank you, LimeWire.
Your computer paid for that. That paid your debt.
My cousin's computer paid for that. And I remember there was this girl I liked, and she used to like MC Magic, MB Writers, and all that shit. So I like made a whole CD of shit like that, right? So I could like listen it with her. And then one time we went to like a field trip to the park down the street. It was in Obregon Park, and one of the homies took the CD player from my hands, and he goes, "What are you listening to?" And then puts it on, fucking MC Magic and shit. And he goes, this fool's listening to MC Magic. This fool's in love, you know? And I was just like so embarrassed, yo. So embarrassed. Yeah.
Their most popular song, that shit is fire, dog.
They have a couple good songs,
No,
you
you
know.
know which one it is, though. The one
They
that
have
all
a
the
few
that
that-
all the high-notes are listened to.
They have one where he samples a piece of that, like if you think you're lonely
No,
now.
it's not that one. There's it though.
Then there's
Number
a
one
something
song.
about you, baby, drives
It's
me
not that
crazy.
one.
Nah, I don't know
There's a
that.
hood classic, bro.
I don't remember it. That was years ago.
I remember.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
put it
funny.
We'll blast it on the shit.
Yeah.
I know you got something.
He's just not gonna
Brooks
say
and
it.
Dunn.
Woo! That's fire.
What's Brooks and Dunn? I don't even know
Brooks
what
and
that.
Dunn?
Yeah.
It goes
country.
It
Oh.
goes,
Yeah, I don't fuck with country. That's the one music I don't like.
What? You don't like
Yo,
John
Brooks,
Dover?
Yo, Brooks and Dunn is fire.
I don't like country. I'll listen to it satirically.
Yeah.
But under the light of a neon moon. That shit is
So
fire.
I was fucking, I did a little bit in fucking county back in '86, and I was in Central, and I don't know where this motherfucker came from. Fucking the fucking sheriff that would do the overnight shift, and he would fucking play fucking
Spring
country
Oh,
all fucking night, dog.
damn.
Just to fuck with
And
you.
all night. So I was just like, fuck with everybody. He was just like, fuck. So I ended
I
up
guess I
fucking-
like country.
I ended up fucking like just singing along with the fucking song. So I was like, fucking never gonna fuck with him, fucking country. But then I discovered how native folks in Indian
Oh,
country,
you love country.
Oh, yes.
and so you'll catch me listening to that,
Yeah.
like.
See, they don't have no other choice in Indian
Yeah,
country. There
that's
ain't
why
no
that's
fucking
what
other
goes down.
radio
But
station.
it's like I didn't know until I was like one time I was listening to this country song. I don't know where. It must have been a movie, I think. And I was like, "What the fuck is that for?" Oh shit! So I went and started looking shit up, and I was like, "Damn."
It was probably Brooks and
You know, but then you know what? No, that was one thing, but the other one he brought out a few songs like that was John Trudell. John Trudell came out with several albums where like very country-ish and shit, and I was like, oh fuck, and that's what it dawned on me. Like that's all they fucking got out there. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, at that generation, and then you have the actor fucking Westerman. He played several native roles in movies and shit, but he also had
He was Indian number 2.
yeah. So you'll catch me listening to that.
Cool.
There's always room here for the lonely.
Can we get a harum?
The only Red Solo Cup is like
Red Soul.
Red Solo Cup. That's the only country song I like it. Other than like old Johnny Cash.
Beneath the light of a neon moon.
All right. On that note,
One heart, one spirit, one voice.
Oh.